Hello, welcome to Manitoba Music's info session on FACTOR and Manitoba Film and Music grants. My name is Elise. I work here at Manitoba Music, and I will be explaining a bit about FACTOR today. I'm joined by Stephen over here and Bonnie. They're both from and they are going to tell you a little bit about the funding that they offer. And we have a lovely audience here. So if you have any questions at all throughout, instead of having it all at the end for the info session, if you have a question, just raise your hand right away. And we will get to you and bring the microphone over. Stephen?
Cool. Thanks, Elise. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I'm hoping I don't feedback like crazy. I feel like I'm right in front of the PA. So I'm Stephen Carroll from Manitoba Film and Music. I'm the music program manager, and I'm joined here with Bonnie, who's the program administrator. And we are the two people that receive and process the apps that you guys submit for all of your recording projects. So as Elise sort of did a poll of the room, I just want to get a sense of the more in-depth what the interest is in our programs and perhaps factors. So how many people here are musicians? Okay. How many people here are recording producers, record producers as well? Okay. Anybody managers or labels or agents? Okay. How many people here have released something online? Something for sale or download or streaming? Okay, so everybody's got something out there. How many people are planning on releasing something? Okay, almost, let's just, for the people on the internet, there's almost unanimous. Most people have released something. A lot of them are musicians. So we'll speak a little bit, probably direct everything towards that kind of those kind of applicants and the opportunities that are there in our programs for you guys. So Bonnie and I are here from your local provincial funding agency for music business development. We're here to support you guys in your careers and as you professionalize and to help you achieve success with all of your music endeavors. And we administer a fund that's provided to us solely by the provincial government to do this. We're a Crown Corp. We've been around since 1987, 86, depending on who you ask, under a couple different names. But over the course of the history, we've funded an incredible amount of recordings, something over like 10,000 recordings, some hundreds and hundreds of full-length records, many tour dates. Just even this year, we've funded almost 1,000 individual concerts by Manitoba musicians being performed across the globe. So that's 3 years worth of concerts. We're not even fully through our fiscal. We've only like 6-7 months into our fiscal. So you guys are busy people. Your community's super busy, and we're there to help you achieve success. So as we go through this, if you guys have questions, just raise your hand and we'll try and deal with them on the fly, and if we can. And we might have to bookmark them if we can't. Whoops. So, my history is that I started out as a musician, just like you guys. I was a Manitoba Music member, and I started out in playing locally. Actually, I applied to Manitoba Film and Music when I was around 19 for a demo grant, which was juried and declined. So I have experience as an applicant. I went then on to have a really good career, and I was in a band called the Weaker Thans, and we toured around the globe, had a great record label, and an awesome career, and pretty much accomplished everything I wanted to do as a musician. And eventually, through various other little jobs, I ended up in this position. So I've had a lot of experience. I was a manager for artists for 5 years. I actually ran the West End Cultural Center for a brief time. Even did my hand at booking tours as a self-booking artist. So I've kind of worn all the hats through the years, and I applied for a lot of Manitoba Film and Music grants, and I wrote those for artists as well. So I've experienced as an applicant, and eventually ended up here at my job, and I've been there for 3 years, and it's a pretty interesting job. I see a lot of the activity that happens in the community. I really appreciate the amount of work that goes out there that everybody's putting into it. And I didn't really have that perspective probably when I was sort of siloed as a musician on my own. But when I see the massive activity, it's pretty impressive. So, Bonnie, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Bonnie. I've worked at MFM for 7 years now. Basically, I'm not a musician. I've never been a musician unless you count high school band. But I go to a lot of local shows, and so being at MFM is really great. I love working with all you guys and helping you with your careers.
Right. So Bonnie and I receive the applications generally, and we process them and take them through the various steps that they need. So we are a pretty simple organization. We are a paper-based application, kind of still very old school. They're online. You can check them out there. But these are what we fund. So we fund tours. We fund marketing grants. We fund videos through video grants. And we fund recording through our recording program, which is a loan or a grant, depending what you go for. And we also have a business development grant for those starting labels, management companies, or I guess publishers as well, I believe. So we are here to fund Manitoba musicians. If you live here and you've lived here for a year, you're eligible to apply for our programs. So good news. So I've got a bunch of slides here which are going to go through some of the stuff on our that we're presenting. And we have a cheat sheet that I handed out. I think there's a couple guys at the back that didn't get one, but everything we're going to say is summarized on these. And Bonnie and I are available. We'll have our emails up here, and you can get our cards to answer any questions that are really specific to you guys later, because we're going to give you quite a bit of information. And if you've never applied to us before, it might be a little daunting at first, but once you get through one of these apps, regardless of the program, you'll really get a handle on it. So don't be dissuaded by the number of hoops we're about to present that you have to jump through. So we are just part of one of the main funding agencies that are out there in Canada. Has anybody here applied for a music grant at all for any kind of support? We have a couple, just 3. Yeah. But here's a list of actual other agencies that are available to support you. And the reason we kind of present with FACTOR is because FACTOR is kind of like the national agency, which funds, has around $16 million to give out a year. We have around 600, 700,000 that goes out the door. So FACTOR has a lot more money. They're national. We're only for Manitoba. But these are other agencies that you can go to. When you apply to MFM, we expect that you try and get money out of other agencies that you're eligible for. So it's good to be aware of this. Some of these are only eligible depending on what kind of project you're doing. So MFM, I went over what you can get funding from for us. FACTOR has basically the same programs, which Elise will go through. Manitoba Music actually has Showcase and some business travel grants as well. So showcases to go play so events like South by Southwest or other specific music conferences. Essentially festivals that have a conference, right? That's what the showcase is for.
Right now we only for showcasing artists. It's the export showcase program, so there is no business travel component anymore. But it is specifically for showcasing festivals. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So there's also money for kind of more artistic focused projects to go to the Canada Council. And Manitoba Arts Council also has funding for musicians for creation. That's something to keep in mind. Winnipeg Arts Council has some small grants, which are a little bit harder to get for musicians. And then SOCAN also has showcase grants. So this list is not on the document we gave out, but what maybe we'll do is we'll post it up into the Facebook group for this, and you guys can check it out later. So one of the key elements for our program is that you have to be releasing music to trigger being eligible. It's one of the fundamentals. And there's always a question, what does that mean? So we're putting this up front today. Your album has to be coming out. Generally the programs, if you're coming in for marketing, tour, or video, you're going to be releasing something within 6 months of the time of application. So there's a window of time essentially, and this is very similar to all grants. You have to have an upcoming release to trigger getting funding from us. And for us, it doesn't just mean throwing it up on Bandcamp or SoundCloud. It has to be broadly available. In fact, even if you just print it physical, we won't consider that enough anymore. It has to actually be up online and widely available. Why? Because we want your album to have the best chance of success. And when we invest, we want you to succeed. So that's sort of the logic behind it. Has anybody released through a digital distributor such as CD Baby, TuneCore, or DistroKid? Yeah, so you got some experience. Okay, great. Yeah, that's coming to be more commonplace now, which is great to see that people are getting an understanding of how to properly release things. And if you haven't, these distribution services are readily available. They're just sign up. You just pay a small fee, and you can get your stuff up there. So that's one of the triggers for us. So if you're coming in for recording, you actually have to be notify us in your application and the juries of how you plan to release it. So that's why I mentioned this now. I'm going to give it to Bonnie maybe to talk about the first program we're going to go over. This is sort of one of the fundamental programs we have that covers all your bases for launching a recording project. Bonnie, you want to take it?
Sure. So the marketing program, you're eligible up to 50% of your budget to a maximum of $10,000. And what that means is, like, in your application, your budget's going to have your radio tracker cost, your publicist cost, if you're doing any kind of poster printing or handbills, drop cards, any of that kind of stuff is all eligible. And it's a rolling deadline. You can apply anytime before you start incurring your costs.
Yeah, so the marketing grant is going to allow you to set yourself up with a kind of wide array of kind of key items that can help you actually succeed with the juries in our other programs. So it'll help you hire a publicist. Does anybody know anybody here ever hired a publicist to promote their release? Okay, who did you hire?
Jen Fritz.
Okay, so you hired Jen Fritz. So Jen is a well-known publicist. And what did Jen do for you?
She sent out, she connected with people who write about music and essentially pitched me as something to write about in different journals and online stuff.
Right. So that helps your release get a scope that's more national rather than just local. We want to see that the releases that you're coming into for funding for are promoted on a national to international level, and the marketing program is there to help. And having that kind of vision for your career really will help you in front of the Juried program, which is the recording program. And though we'll offer up to a maximum of $10,000 a year, it's very rare we'll give that all out in one grant. So please don't be too ambitious and start modestly with your applications to us. I mean, I've seen applications for an artist who hadn't really done anything outside the city, and they were about to spend almost $25,000 of their own money promoting themselves, and they had maybe a 5-date tour that was only coffee houses, and I was like, maybe this isn't the right time to be investing this much money, and to come to us and ask us to match that money or support that kind of expense. We just go, this doesn't make any sense right now. You don't meet the criteria. We can't come in at that kind of level. So the kind of the idea there is that this program is here to support you, but you want to do things that are smart, because we want you to do things that are smart, and we want your money to be used wisely. So it's something to keep in mind. So though we have the number 10,000 up there, I don't want people to think that we're just going to write you a check for $10,000 on your first grant to us. The more you work with us, the more sophisticated and professional your career you become, the more money you'll be able to pull from us. It's kind of a similar system to what FACTOR does. You can work your way up through the levels at FACTOR to get more money. We don't have gates like that. Anybody in Manitoba is open to apply. This is also a great program for getting pieces together, like your website, your bio, items that you need to really present yourself in a professional level. And those things also help the rest of the programs. Okay? Any questions about the marketing one? So does everybody understand what rolling deadline means? Yeah, deadline means it's open all year. You can apply. It just means we want you to have the apps in before your initiatives start. So one of the big pieces for us is that the app, which is paper, really just lists your name, it has a budget in it, and you have some supporting documents. That has to be in our office and date stamped for us to approve it and improve the expenses. So that's a key item across all the programs. We're generally very user-friendly, and means we'll allow a bit of back and forth when you deliver an application, but we insist that date matches, lines up with whatever your project start dates are and your expenses. Yeah.
Hi, Steve. Is there any template for the application? And the second question would be, how long does it normally take for the adjudication process?
Yeah, it takes, depending on the program and depending on what's happening in our office, it can be as little as a week to a month. So somewhere around there. Recording takes the longest. Unless there's some kind of issue with your app, we're pretty fast. The more complete your application, the quicker we are at turning it around. The template is the application forms, which are online on our website, which will show up here in the slide later, but it's mbfilmmusic.ca, and we brought some copies of all of the applications. And I think the biggest question that'll come up is what the marketing plan is, and we'll touch a bit about what a marketing plan is and what that should look like. It's one of the key elements. Do you want to maybe intro this one and I'll chat in more detail?
Okay. So for music videos and viral videos, the difference is the size of your budget. And also the viral video one is open to artists whose albums we didn't fund, and the music video one is for just the albums that we did fund. So there's two different levels. The music video is up to $5,000 or 50% of your budget, and the viral video is up to $1,500 or 50% of your budget. And basically we'll cover any costs related to making that music video. So rental, location rentals, equipment rentals, if you're hiring actors, all those kinds of things are eligible.
Has anybody here made a music video? Yeah, a couple people. Okay, great. Yeah, so as you know now, like music videos have become probably, unless you don't know, they become very key. Now it's really hard to release something without some kind of video content. We actually saw this program kind of become quite dormant for a few years while there was a gap between the time where much music really faded and just moved to reality TV programming versus what they used to do before, which was extensive music video content. And now with the advent of YouTube and the need for visual content with releases and marketing strategies, the video programs become really popular again. And this one too has a rolling deadline. So this one the apps need to be in before. And you can use a local producer. We will look at their CV. We want people that are professional, that are making the videos. This one and the marketing program and the tour are not juried. They're just adjudicated by Bonnie, myself, and my boss, Carroll. And key items that we really look for in this program are that you meet the criteria for release. So you're releasing something through all the distribution channels I mentioned. Same thing with the marketing program. We need to see proper release plan or that it's happened. So for instance, if you give a video app to me, and it's only a local release, there's no national program, you'll probably lose some points for that. If you don't have it up on streaming services and I can't find it except on your Bandcamp, probably won't be able to fund it. If the music doesn't exist, if it's not recorded, we can't fund it. I do have received applications for music that doesn't exist. I'm like, well, this is great. I'm glad you want to make this music video, but maybe we should just work on finishing the recording first because you don't have any music for this music video. So do put your ducks in a row. The recordings have to be done or very close to being done at the time of application. If there's some kind of glitch, we might take it in. But generally, that's sort of a non-starter. Any questions on the video program? So, yeah, this is a good one. This is our tour program. So we have about $15,000 a year for you as individual artists, depending on how much money we have left at the end of the year. We don't always get to deliver all. We don't meet the demand of this program because it's one of our most popular programs. So have anybody in the room gone on tour before? Okay, so we've got 5, 6 people have been on tour. I know James here has. And where did you guys go on tour in the back?
We just went out west.
Where'd you go?
Basically all over Alberta and Saskatchewan.
Okay, so they did a tour of Alberta, Saskatchewan. And where else? Anybody else in the room tour?
Vancouver and back.
Okay, great. And how many dates did you do on that?
6.
Right. Okay, well, we have one of the criteria for us is that you got to do 6 dates. There's just certain rules that make the tour eligible. We can't fund every single person's out-of-town show, so we have these kind of benchmark thresholds that we want you to meet. So we want you to do at least 6 shows, can't have more than 7 days in between, and hometown shows don't count. Please don't put them on your itinerary because it drives us crazy. you're actually allowed to count live promo performances, and we like to see that on the app. Live promo performance on a tour would be like going into a radio station and playing on the radio. It's a really good tool for promoting maybe a show that you're doing the next night or that night, and the release. So I encourage that to be a thought when you're making your applications. But we only count one show per day, so for eligible expenses, because we have some art. And I mentioned that because we have some artist-friendly items in this budget. So you're allowed to claim your artist fees per day. So if you're going on tour, you can claim artist fees up to $150 a day. And your tours can happen anywhere. Bonnie, what other expenses are they allowed to claim on the tour grant?
Your mileage or your gas, vehicle rental, equipment rental, accommodations, airfare, parking, taxis, tolls, basically anything that you end up paying for while you're on the road, except instrument purchases.
Yeah. Yeah, and so this again falls in the same release window. You got to have music out there. It's got to be available for purchase, and you can come in for this program 6 months before release or within 2 years after. So it's the same window as the other programs. And something I probably should circle back to is that for the marketing grant, you actually have to be touring or playing shows out of town to get it. We expect that you do have a minimum of 6 shows for that program as well. And these guidelines are in the cheat sheets I gave out here. We'll be posting them online, and they're also in detail on our website under the music programs banner. So there's a lot of rules we're talking about. Is there any immediate questions about the tour program? Okay. So these tours can happen anywhere, and all the expenses related to your tour are eligible. So all the tour travel, but you're also allowed to claim per diems, which is a daily fee, and we consider that an allowance. In the budgets, all of them actually have certain items that are built into each budget, and these are some of the items that will show up when you're doing your budget. And if you've never written one of our budgets before, these items might read as a little confusing, but in the end, they're just there to help you. You're allowed to claim some donated fees, and you're allowed to claim admin fees. And the admin fee is just a standard item that shows up in all grants. I believe it's in the FACTOR grants, it's in SOCAN grants, that just ends up pushing up your budget. So just something to keep in mind. And once you've written out your budget once in our template, our template is essentially the same. And if you email me, actually I have an Excel document I can provide you, which makes doing the math a lot easier. Yeah, we allow cash expenses and stuff like that, but because I don't know if we've really made this clear, but at the end of your tour, at the end of your marketing program, at the end of your video, you got to do reporting. So we do a mini audit of the tour. You guys will actually have to submit your receipts in a cost reporting phase. Bonnie, do you want to talk about cost reporting?
Sure.
Because this is what she runs.
Yeah. So
cost reporting goes to Bonnie.
Yeah. After you are done your project or your tour, you have to hand in all your invoices and receipts and proof that you paid them. So, if it's a tour, then you have to keep your gas receipts and your hotel receipts and all that kind of stuff. And proof of payment can be your credit card statement, the e-transfer. Cash is only up to $150. And if you pay any other way, like debit, then you have to give me your bank statement showing that the expense went through. Those are the main things. So you have to basically show that you spent what you said you were going to spend in your budget in order to get the full funding from us, because we can only go up to 50% of what you actually spend. So yeah, I go through it line by line. Yeah, it's very exciting.
Yeah. Super exciting. And then I go through it to make sure that it's that there's no other. I just sort of look for red flags. Yeah, the cost reporting. If nobody's ever written a cost report for a grant, congratulations. You've lived a free life, and you're about to be set on by this incredibly burdensome administrative thing that is very unique to Canadian music business. You essentially have to get audited at every tour. So just keep your receipts and keep them organized. It makes your life so much easier. It's a good thing as a musician anyways to keep on track of that stuff. So because we will need actually to verify all the receipts. But again, we're giving you money, so in theory it's worth it. That remains to be seen at the end, because most musicians will probably say it's pretty painful. So I'm going to try and keep this moving quickly here, but these are some of the main guidelines that govern all of our programs that you guys should be aware of. Two of the key items for us is for us to give you money, you're going to have a business account and a registered business. Does everybody here have a registered business, or anybody have a registered business? Maybe that's a better question. So about half the room have a registered business. So you can get that from the government company's office. It's a pretty simple procedure. It just means registering a business name. The reason that we require that is because we don't fund individuals. We're not an arts for art's sake organization. We're here to fund the commercial music business, and we want to see that you're set up properly as a business. And it's not hard to do. I think it's $100 something now bucks. But it's a one-time fee, except for the renewal, a small renewal fee that you have to do every 3 years. But if that's not in place at the time of application, then it's okay. It's just something we need to go to contract and give you money for at the end. Again, if you're thinking of applying, reach out to us and we can talk you through what are the key items that you need to have in place for the particular application that you're looking to do. Just a couple other items. You've got to be registered with FACTOR, which Elise will talk about. We also have to apply to FACTOR if you're eligible. Now that's, some of our programs are not in sync with them. So the tour, unless you're a level 2 or 3 artist with FACTOR, or you've received Juried sound recording, you're not eligible for the tour video marketing funding. The only program that's open for you is the Showcase and Artist Development, which I actually recommend applying for, because the Showcase has a really high approval rate, and that'll get you can add a Showcase date to your tour. So playing Breakout West, for instance, or doing CMW. The other item which governs all the programs is that the songs must be registered with SOCAN. How many people in the room have stuff registered with SOCAN? Okay. So does anybody here not know what SOCAN is? Okay, right on. We won't even talk about it. Moving on. So the last program that we're going to chat about quickly, we're trying to keep our section pretty tight, so we're just breezing through this stuff, is the Music Recording Production Fund. Bonnie, do you want to lead this one?
Sure. There's 3 levels in the recording program. There's a level 1, which splits off into 2 streams. So there's a demo, which would be not for release, or the other one we call commercial release, which can be a single or an EP up to 4 songs. You're eligible for up to $2,000. Level 2 is usually an album or an EP of 5 songs or more, and it's up to $10,000 or 60% of your budget. That one's pretty common. The level 1 commercial release is also really common. And then level 3 is a full-length album, which we will fund you up to $20,000. That one's a little bit harder to get just because the criteria is a little different. That one has a sales threshold of 750 units of your previous release. And then there's another stream for out-of-province artists. So if you're a studio or a producer and you're bringing in an artist to record with you here in Manitoba, you can apply for that program.
Yeah, so that's sort of the quick overview of that. This one is a fixed deadline, this program. It's April 19th? April 19th is the next one. Normally there's a deadline in January, but because we were oversubscribed from our September deadline, we aren't running a deadline in January. The next deadline will be April 19th, and then one in September, and then one in January. So our programs line up. Usually the recording program is usually set up to be about a week before the FACTOR program, because we want you to try and get some money out of FACTOR. But in this year, right now, we're a little out of sync. But typically, we line up with FACTOR. These are some of the rules. You got to be any genre can come in for funding. it's got to be you got to be a Manitoba resident. Then the copyright must be owned by you in some capacity. You're allowed to sign record deals. It's not a barrier to accessing our funding. You got to do your recording here and mixing. You can master anywhere. And the eligible costs include artist fees and essentially everything you're going to need for making an album here, from graphic design to hard drives to hiring studio musicians to paying your engineer, your producer, as well as manufacturing. So we allow you to claim manufacturing costs for whatever you're doing, CDs, LPs. There you go. And key item, it can't have been previously released. We had, like at our last round, some applications declined because they ended up submitting songs to us that had already been released by them. We can't fund that. It's already happened. It's in the past. We don't fund re-releases of your own material. Okay? Yeah, so the next deadline, go ahead.
So if it's on Bandcamp or SoundCloud, does that count?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. There's he asked an audience member asked if it was up on SoundCloud already or Bandcamp, we'd count that as released in a weird way. Yeah, unfortunately. So this program is juried, so you're going to be presenting the music. You present demos in this program, rough demos of the material that you want to pay to have fully recorded in the studio, along with a marketing plan and the paperwork, which is just behind you guys, as well as any supporting documents. The jury you'll be presenting it to two different juries to get approved. If you're declined by either one, unfortunately, the app is declined. And we usually have, I guess I kind of advise first-time applicants, expect to be declined the first time. It's just easier that way. That's what happened to me personally, and I was successful, and I see it repeated over and over. And if you've never applied to a recording program, usually the best program to come in for is the level 1, so the demo or the commercial release. It's where artists have the most success who haven't come in before. That's an entry-level program that's really there for the demo. It's there for artistic exploration, to work with a producer for the first time, flush out material, and then to use that for internal industry purposes like building your team, soliciting for live shows, or labels or other partners such as a publicist or a PR person, for instance, to help perhaps push your full length that you want to record later. The level 1 can also be used for recording singles, 1 to 4 songs, and I'll just go back to the recording overview. 1 to 4 songs to be commercially released, and then those two programs have kind of different application criteria. So the level 1 demo, you're going to demonstrate in your project plan what you want to do with the demos, why they're important, how they'll be useful for you, and how you will promote them to industry or for whatever internal purposes. Whereas the commercial release, you're going to lay out a normal marketing plan saying, I'm going to put it up here, there. I'm going to do social media campaign to support it. I'm going to hire this radio tracker. I'm going to do these videos. I'm going to go on this tour. In our recording applications, it lays out in pretty good detail all the things that should be in a marketing plan. So in the actual recording application form, you can see some cheat sheets, and we can send you some notes on that, and then Elise can meet with you to talk about it in more detail. And it's the same criteria for level 2 and level 3 for the marketing, but we want to see more sophisticated plans that are national to international in scope. It's just something to keep in mind. And Bonnie and I can chat with you later, or if you have any questions right now about that, you can throw up your hand. We're also available to consult with you guys in advance of coming in to our programs. We'll even look at your applications if you're interested. We can give you some notes prior to you submitting stuff to the juries. Okay? So that's kind of it on our half. We have some general tips for the juried programs. It's great to have letters of support from industry team members or anybody that maybe's got your back in the business. Those juried apps really live and die on the marketing plans. And here are our emails. So people on the internet will post them up on the Facebook group. And anybody here, we have business cards, and you can ask any questions you have to us directly afterwards. But I think we'll pass it over to the Factor side now.
All right. Well, this is my first time doing a Factor presentation, so I hope no one from Factor is watching. Wait.
They're totally watching.
They're totally watching.
I told them I was going to be doing this, so they're probably okay. I don't know how to make this look better, all my tabs, but anyways. It is.
Apple F? Or Control F? No, that's fine, right. Sorry. What is it again for full screen? Anybody know?
Okay, well, whatever. It's fine. I need access to those other tabs in case anyways, if I need to. Okay. All right, so Factor is for all of Canada, so it doesn't matter which province you're from. They'll give money to anybody who's Canadian. So I'll just go through their whole thing. So what is Factor? Factor's mandate. So the acronym is the Foundation Assisting Canadian Talent on Recordings. Gives grants to Canadian musicians and music companies to make and promote Canadian sound recordings and strengthen the Canadian music industry. The funders for Factor, the funding for Factor is provided by the Government of Canada through the Canada Music Fund and by Canada's private radio broadcasters. And Factor funds Canadian recording artists, songwriters, artist managers, record labels, music publishers, distributors, and event producers through numerous programs. They fund artists in all genres of music all across Canada. And so in addition to the funding, the production, and licensing of sound recordings, Factor also funds a range of activities to support their commercialization. So this includes marketing and promotion, touring and showcasing, producing videos, and creating digital content. Okay, so getting started with Factor. Those who are eligible, you or at least half of your band members must be Canadian citizens or be permanent residents of Canada. You and your bandmates will need to have one of the following. So Canadian passport, birth certificate in Canada, Canadian citizenship card, permanent resident card, or SCIS card. Okay, so this is a section where I find that when people come in to see me, they have the most trouble with. So if we have time at the end, I might actually log in to try to explain this further, or if you have a question, just ask me, because this can be a little bit complicated. So to submit an application to Factor, you'll need all three of these profiles in their system, in the website. They must be created and submitted to Factor for review at least 1 week before a program application deadline. So the first thing you need to do is create your user profile. So this is your personal login for the Factor online portal. Your basic contact info and demographic information for you as an individual will be in that one. You should only have one user profile, even if you play in multiple bands. And every user profile can be linked to as many artists and applicant profiles and projects as needed. So it's literally just your individual profile of yourself as a person. Then you also need an applicant profile. So this is your business profile or the legal entity that will enter a contract with Factor for funding. It'll have the name on the bank account into which you want the funding to be paid. If you don't have a formal company structure, You'll need to decide which individual band member is going to take the responsibility for funding as the applicant. Keep in mind that FACTOR issues T4As for all applicant types. For individuals, this gets filed as other income. So when you're deciding if you're not going to go in as a business to create this applicant profile, your members and your band will have to decide who wants to be claiming any FACTOR funding in their taxes. So that's an important thing to know. If you have a company, FACTOR needs to know who owns the company and show who is designated as a signing authority for that company. So if you're a band and you're in a partnership together and you have the business documents and you're all signing authorities, then you would have to list all of that in there. And there's also the artist profile. So this is your career as an artist. So this helps to determine which of the FACTOR programs you may be eligible to apply for. At minimum, you must complete the mandatory information section for your profile. Once submitted and reviewed, you'll receive a general artist rating, which is most of the artists in the system. I can show you after kind of how to get a level 2 or level 3. But obviously there's a lot more money and a lot more opportunities involved in that, but anyone can be a general artist. General artists can apply to FACTOR's most popular programs. So there's artist development, juried sound recording, and the showcase component of the live performance program. Any questions about that so far? Okay. So we'll talk about the programs now. So these are FACTOR's most popular programs, and they're open to all artists rated general. If you want to see the other programs that are available when you start to develop a little more as an artist, you can check out the website. So these two are juried programs. That means that when you apply, there will be a jury of people who are going to go through and read everything and basically judge you based on your application.
How many people are in that jury?
On FACTOR? I don't know.
How many people are in on that jury?
I don't know anything other than
7. That's what I heard. You hear that?
I'm not sure.
Maybe FACTOR can post in on this if they're watching.
Yeah, FACTOR's watching. Maybe you can make a comment. I'm gonna find that out for next time though. So I always, before I go on, when I'm doing, when you're doing the application, you need to think about, there's a jury of people. Most of them won't know you, or they won't know you, because if they do know you, they'll have to say there's a conflict of interest. But they're people who don't know much about your band, and they're looking at a bunch of other applications, and they're deciding where money is going to go. So when you write your application, look at it from their perspective. Like, how would I want to receive this information, and what would make me want to give money to a band? I think that helps a lot. If you word things wrong, like, we hope to do this or we wish to do that, they want to know that you're going to do it. So just remember that there are people who are even artists themselves, or they work on the industry side, and they want to know that this money is going to a good cause, or something that is actually going to end up bringing money back into the economy someday. So the Artist Development Grant, this is up to $2,000. FACTOR funds 75% of your total cost. So to receive the full $2,000, you must spend at least $2,667. It supports 1 year of artist development activities, including costs related to sound recording, touring, showcasing, video production, and marketing and promotion. So basically, whatever you feel is going to develop you the best as an artist in that year, you can list all of those things and apply for the funding. There's no one thing that you have to pick. Application materials, you need to have an artist development plan, and there's a template on the website. It's really easy to use. You also need one MP3 assessment track plus lyrics, if applicable, and you need that even if you're applying, say you want to use the artist development fund for a music video or for touring or for marketing purposes. you still need to have that track that you to have them assess it, because they need to know that you are making good music too. And then you need a current artist biography uploaded to your artist profile. So the deadlines, the September one already passed. They'll announce some more deadlines next year, but the next one is January 25th, which is why we did this today, because it gives you ample time to sort of look into this and see how this could help you over the next little while. And you have a month and a bit to get that in. And remember, if you haven't set up any of those profiles, you have a little bit less time because you need to get those set up and reviewed before you can apply. There's also the juried sound recording. So for general artists, you can receive up to $30,000. The $10,000 can be spent on the actual sound recording itself. And you can see, if you're an artist too, you can get a little more there. Factor funds 75% of your total costs. So to receive the full amount, 25% of your total costs must come out of your own pocket. It supports the recording, release, and promotional life cycle of a full-length sound recording. So just to clarify, that $10,000 max that's spent on the sound recording, the other $20,000 that is available would basically be for the promotional life of that and materials for that sound recording. Application materials, you need a description of your goals and expected results, a recording start date, 2 MP3 assessment tracks, and I'll just pause there as well. Make sure, these aren't final recordings, but they should almost sound like final recordings. Your music is being compared to a lot of really great artists, and if you send something acoustically, like recorded through your phone, and you're like, oh, but there's going to be a full band and full production behind it, it's not going to hold up to all the other applicants. So make sure that you get a really, really good demo. If you want a really, really good demo, you can apply for a demo grant through MFM. And that's kind of the point of that one, isn't it? Just to get you more opportunities like this one. And then more materials is a description of the changes you wish to make to the assessment tracks if your project receives funding. So if you're planning on featuring, a choir in the background or whatever, you would add that in there. A detailed marketing plan. And I think that's really important, and it's really important to know that your marketing plan isn't just for the release of the album, but for the period of time after the release, because that's really what counts. And then a current artist biography, also uploaded to your artist profile. That has the same deadline as the artist development fund. So January. And that one will take a lot longer to write than the artist development application. So keep that one in mind. And then a showcase grant. This is non-juried, and as Stephen was saying, it's a lot. It's pretty easy to get if you've got a showcase opportunity. So that means, going to Canadian Music Week, South by Southwest, Breakout West. You have to be invited. It has to be an actual showcase opportunity for you. So yeah, I'm just trying to think of any other showcases in North America, but as examples, there's like tons.
Yeah, there's a lot. Folk Alliance,
Right.
you said Canadian Music Week, M for Montreal or Mondial in Montreal, and we also have there's Halifax Pop Explosion,
Right,
like that. And then internationally there's Reeperbahn, which is in Germany, in Hamburg, Great Escape,
Big Sound.
Big Sound in Australia. And these are sort of developmental shows where you can go and perform for the first time in that country, maybe get in front of some promoters to help get future gigs, get a label, and build some team in that territory.
Yeah, so this is different than like a festival where people are, wearing loincloths and, sleeping on the grass. This is
No, it's not.
So this is specifically to put you in front of industry. That's why it's called a showcase. And it is to get you other opportunities. And showcases, they don't pay, and that's why the funding is there. And also they do have a list on Factor. If you can scroll down when you're applying for it. And usually all the showcasing festivals are there, but sometimes there are newer ones and they're not in the system yet. Basically, it just has to have a published delegate list to be considered a showcase. And a delegate list would be the people from labels and agencies and management companies that will be at that festival, the showcasing festival. So you can get up to $7,500 per artist per year. A maximum of $5,000 can be spent on domestic showcases. So if you only get showcasing opportunities within Canada, you can only get up to $5,000 that year. But if you have an international opportunity, you can get up to the full $7,500. It supports all your travel costs to play recognized showcases for targeted audiences of potential music industry partners, like I was saying, booking agents, managers, record labels. And then the eligibility and application materials. So you need an invitation to play an upcoming showcase, either a current release, released no more than 24 months before you submit your application, or an upcoming release to be released within 6 months of the showcase date. And then a list of industry professionals with name, title, and company that you or your team have invited to the showcase. And this is a rolling deadline, so apply at least one calendar day before you depart, although like MFM, you can't apply after you've already incurred costs. So if you've already booked your flight, you can't apply after that. Again, it's a pretty easy one on the website. So, if you find out you get this opportunity and there's like an awesome seat sale going on, you just have to book the flight. Just go online and quickly get your application in. This isn't quite as detailed as the other two. So that's one thing to note. So tips for success. And yeah, many of these tips are applicable to other funders and grant applications. So these are good to know. So understand your funder. Start preparing early, especially if it's your first time applying. Read the program guidelines, and I'd say thoroughly and a few times. Connect with your project coordinator, or in the case of MFM, connect with the people at MFM. If someone else is writing your grant, make sure you read it. And that's because a lot of times they fill in the blanks and your artist name they'll forget to edit it out. And it'll say someone else's name, and that just looks silly. And then talk to previous recipients and search the Factor funded list, which I'll show you where you can find that on the website when we're done this. And understand public funding policy. So for the juried programs like artist development or the juried sound recording, propose plans that are specific and achievable. Proofread. I always get like 10 different people to proofread for me. Consider your readers, like how I was saying. Consider the people that are looking at this and what they're going to be thinking when they read through it. It's also nice to have it look great instead of messy. They're not going to want to read through it or know anything about you if it looks ugly. Choose your genre wisely, because that's also how they choose the jurors. So don't select like 7 different things, like pick a couple that are your main genre. Request the juror comments. So say you don't, well, if you do get it or if you don't get it, it's always good to know why. Like maybe they say your music sucks and you need to go work with the songwriter. That's good to know. Or maybe they say there's too many spelling mistakes and you think, oh, I should have had more people proofread it like they told me at Manitoba Music. Always get their comments. And then if you don't get approved the first time, keep trying. One thing about that is some people get really discouraged and when they aren't approved, but you have to understand that there's a different amount of applicants every time and different types of applicants every time, and there's only so much funding. So sometimes it's not even that your application wasn't that good, it's just that there was a lot more people who applied during that round, and therefore your chances of getting that funding really decreased. And, there were a handful of bands that were better than you. Some people miss this by like 0.1 of a grade, so don't let it get you down. Once you've already written a grant, it's a lot easier to write it again using that information. But again, if you didn't get it, I would also look into the comments and come to someone like me or Steven and kind of say, is there anything we could have improved? But it is easier the second time around. For approved projects, make sure you keep track of all of your receipts and avoid using cash as much as possible. Know the logo and acknowledgement requirements. So if you are funded by somebody, then say it's for your video. At the end of that video, you're going to have that on there. So just remember that. And if any of the plans change, they understand that happens. Contact your project coordinator. Does anyone have any questions about this yet so far? I'm almost done. Okay, awesome. So I'll just show you no, that's not what I wanted. Oh yeah, so I'll show you the different ratings here. So a lot of people want to know how you get to level 2 or 3 as an artist. And just keep in mind, these are kind of just guidelines. They don't actually say like if you don't have 5,000 sales, you don't get it. But it kind of gives you a guideline to know the level of success you need to achieve in order to be considered. So around 5,000 album sales and or 300,000 Spotify streams. Like there are some artists that are huge on Spotify, but they don't necessarily sell a ton physically or tour a ton, but they're creating revenue by getting Spotify streams and have music videos and stuff. And then just like 500,000 North American streams from releases in the past 5 years. Video streams, 30,000. And I'm just going through artist 2 right now, or level 2. Tour revenue in the past 24 months, they want to see 40,000. How many tour dates you've had in the past 24 months? 50. And then sync licensing for TV and film, about $4,000 in the past 5 years. Around 10,000 Facebook likes and around 3,000 Twitter followers. So again, you don't need to have every single one of those numbers, but that's kind of what they gauge it on. And of course, like you can see in this other column, there's a lot more for artist 3. But with those, there's a lot more funding. So they fund tours and other things. So definitely, I find this really good to look at as a goal to achieve in my strategic planning with my band. Like, when do you think you can achieve these numbers? That's kind of, set those goals. Like, when do we want to hit 5,000 album sales? What's a realistic goal? And how are we going to get that? I think that that's a really good thing to consider when you're writing your marketing plan. And, in 2 years, this is probably attainable if you do have a really good marketing plan. So I like to kind of use this as my goal setting tool. And then I was just going to show you, it is good to talk to other artists who've been funded. And, people really do like to share information and help each other out. And I think it's okay to approach someone, say, hey, I noticed you got funded by Factor. I'm writing an application now. Do you have any tips for me? Do you mind if I look at your application? Worst that they can say is no. So if you do want to find that out, you can go right on their website, like when the page first loads up, and you can go to Factor Funded. And then they have all these people who've been funded by Factor that we know and have heard of. And then you can go, looking for more. See, it's all hidden. So this is what I wanted to show you. So down in the bottom corner, you can go to View Past Recipients. Oh man, it's slow. Okay. So you can even select the program. So let's say we want to know who got the artist development. And I want to know who got it in Manitoba because they're accessible. And just, that's in the last year who got it. So you can click on Filter. And there is a list of all the people that we know in and around Manitoba. So these are all really accessible people. And like I said, I think it's always a good idea to talk to people who've been successful in the program. And then, other than that, if you don't have any more questions, you do have a question. Great. Here, let me come to you.
For the artist's application, can they apply through Factor and at the same time through Manitoba Film and Music? And can they get funding from both, or it's one or the other?
That's a really good question. And actually, I have this I'm going to grab. It's encouraged that you apply for both. And I think that there's a lot of artists out there, or just anyone out there who thinks, if I'm already funded, is that going to take that opportunity away from me? Like, do they only give money to the people who need it? No. Funding goes to the people who are funded. Funding goes to the people who deserve it. So, all the funders want to see that you're accessing everything that's been made available to you because they want you to have a successful project. The more people that are funding that project, the more successful it's going to be.
Yeah, so for us, we actually expect you, if you're eligible, to go to Factor for the other portion of the budget that you might be short. So we'll come in for 50% on most programs. Recording, it varies, but generally it's around 50%. So we expect you, if you're eligible, to go to Factor. If you can, go to the Artist Development Program. Use it to subsidize your marketing costs. Or if you're having showcase funding from SOCAN on your tour, we'd like to see that in the application. We look forward to that. And it gets a little complicated sometimes juggling the numbers, but don't worry about it. We figured it out at the end.
Any other questions? Okay. I am going to just mention too, because we're here at Manitoba Music, I want to mention the Manitoba Music Export Showcase program that Stephen had brought up earlier. Because there is the one on Factor. So again, if you get invited to go to Canadian Music Week or Breakout West, you can apply on Factor. You can also apply with Manitoba Music, and you can apply for up to 60% of approved expenses. And you're eligible for a maximum of up to $6,000 per fiscal year. And then, so you must, but for that, you must be a showcasing artist, or if you're an, we don't have any artist managers here or label reps, but if you were to want to go to a showcase to promote your artist, you have to have a showcasing artist in order to qualify. And it's the same as Factor, where it has to be a recognized industry conference or showcase with a published industry delegate list. So that's also available to anybody. And that's it. That's all I have to say. Do you have any more comments, Stephen?
No, but if you haven't got our cheat sheet that we gave out at the beginning, we have it up here at the front, and we have application forms on the table over there. We didn't print that many. You can download them from our website and grab a card from us. I have some stacks here. We'd love to hear from you with any questions that you have, and maybe just to get to, we're happy to set a meeting to get an understanding where you're at and what we can advise you on what programs you might be eligible for.
All right. There are surveys, and there's the tray at the back. If you can put those in, that'd be wonderful. Your feedback is very much appreciated. I just want to thank Stephen and Bonnie for taking the time to be here. And thank you, all of you, for taking the time to come and learn. And I wish you all the success with your grant applications.